When the internet came into being, and particularly in the 1990s when it was in its first great investment boom, there was a story that was told by many people. And that story was that once everybody was connected and could email one another and share web pages with one another, everything would be awesome. And we would all be able to exchange views and news and understand one another better. And we would form ultimately a kind of global community or a republic of cyberspace. And John Perry Barlow was one of those people who visualized this as a kind of utopia, almost like John Lennon's Imagine, which was an earlier iteration of the same notion. Once we all just connected, then the conflicts would disappear because the misunderstandings would disappear. And this seemed tremendously attractive. And not for the first time in history, people imagined that greater knowledge and greater connection would lead to greater harmony. The bad news is that history is against this hypothesis. We know from past experience that when there is greater connectedness, thanks to some change in technology, far from producing a global community, the network that has been created leads to greater polarization. Why is that? Well, it's because of a phenomenon that the network science people called homophily, the tendency for birds of a feather to flock together. We are inclined to be attracted by people like us, and when you create a large social network, we can more easily cluster into like-minded subgroups. It's just as happened 500 years ago in the Reformation. Martin Luther thought that if everybody could read the Bible, and if everybody could read his sermons thanks to the wonder of the printing press, then there would be a priesthood of all believers, as foreseen in the Gospels. What actually happened was 130 years of religious strife, because not everybody agreed with Luther. Not everybody became a Protestant. A great many people violently dissented and formed ultimately the Counter-Reformation. So I think what we see today is a very similar version of the same story, where the creation of giant social networks through the internet has led to polarization and this tendency for people to cluster into like-minded groups.